Perfect. So, welcome back, everyone. Good evening. We are continuing this series. We have had amazing talks in the last few days, more than a week now, as a part of the career guidance series that we are having and hosted by Lila Gurukulam. As we are discovering more and more careers and we are interacting with more and more people, our knowledge about different careers have been growing. We are unlocking a lot of things that we had not known about certain professions and digging deeper into it and just understanding, okay, what we knew was just at the surface. There's a lot more that's happening behind the titles of what we have commonly seen. And today, as a guest, we have Frank Rausan Pereira. I don't know how many of you have seen his face in multiple places. He is a seasoned professional anchor at Sansad TV, Parliament TV, the official government channel. And he's been in the industry for a long time. He's hosted amazing shows like the Viewpoint, the Big Picture, and he's interviewed I don't know how many people that we hope to meet and see, starting from politicians to big business people and every name that you can think of. Most of them have been on his shows. Today, I'm trying to be the anchor while we have the goat of anchor sitting on the other side. That is one of the things that he
Role reversal. It's good to be
role
sitting on
reversal.
this side
Yeah,
for a change.
let me try and maybe I can get a feedback of how this is, how this could be a good alternate for me if I want to take it up as a profession. So I'll come back to you for reviews later on. Uh, One of the things that Frank does, but other apart from that, he's also been training a lot of students for the civil service exams like IAS, IPS, and IFS, and he's got bunch of people who are fans of his. He has trained a lot of them. They've got to places because of the coaching that he's had with the current affairs and everything that's going on. I don't think they could have found a better mentor than Frank for those coaching. So that is a quick introduction from my side. But yeah, I'll hand it over to you. Maybe if there is something that I've missed or maybe I misquoted, please feel free to add more glamour to this.
I don't know about glamour, but nothing misquoted. I think that was a very good introduction. It has covered everything almost. One aspect that I don't know I've deliberately left out or haven't spoken too much about is the fact that I've had the privilege of traveling around the world with two prime ministers, two presidents, and two vice presidents as well as part of the official delegation. So I've been to places where normally people wouldn't go,
Hmm.
and I've had the opportunity, thanks to the nature of my job, to get that done as well. So
Yeah,
yeah, that's probably something that I wanted to just put out there.
gone to the places that people don't go and gone with people that usually people don't go with. So it's both of it. So I mean that's a big thing for a lot of us, right? So we seldom see our prime ministers and presidents. So it's a road show or an event that happens. We are like 100 meters away and we just get a glimpse of it. And you've had close encounters with a lot of them, a lot of people from the ministry and a lot of people from the governance itself. I mean, this is something that we'll discover as we go, but because you kickstarted with this, if you can recollect or share some of the names that you have met, people from India, from abroad, what are the kind of people that you have met and question them?
Quite a few people. In fact, it's difficult to keep track or keep tab, but since people know them, Prime Minister Narendra Modi,
Mhm.
former Prime Minister Manmohan Singh, former Prime Minister Deve Gowda, these are the prime ministers that I can think of. Presidents also, President Ramnath Kovind, President Pratibha Patil, just to name a few.
Mhm.
And as far as members of the opposition, Shashi Tharoor, of course, everyone knows the name of Shashi Tharoor and everything that he brings to the table. So that has always been an interesting conversations that I've had with him.
Mhm.
And since we are on this topic, I remember, in 2015, accompanying Prime Minister Modi on his maiden visit to China as well. That was the first time that
Okay.
he was traveling as the Prime Minister to China.
Mhm.
So that is something that I can remember very vividly. I happened to go to Mongolia as well
Mhm.
along with him during that same visit. So the it sounds fancy, it sounds great, but there's a downside to it as well. I was about 45 minutes away from the Great Wall of China, but I couldn't go and see it.
Yeah.
So people, those are some things that you miss out,
Yes.
because as part of the delegation, you travel with the delegation, you travel with them. If route lag jata at times. If the route is Great Wall of China, then we would have seen Great Wall of China also, but it was not there on the agenda. So we missed the Great Wall of China, but the Great Hall of the People, where tourists usually do not
Hmm.
go to, it's their parliament building, so to
Right.
speak. So that is something that we went got a first row's view of, and
Mhm.
having to see everything and experiencing the history also. So those are some positives, and of course there's a downside to all of that as well.
Yeah. I mean, so much of security, you cannot just loiter around, be yourself, start taking selfies, though you're right next to the big man. So you can't
Yeah.
do any of those. So yeah. And of all the people that you have met, who is that one person that you relished the most meeting, had a great opportunity meeting or having a great conversation?
I've had great conversations with a lot of people. I particularly remember a conversation that I had with the former defense minister and chief minister of Goa, Mr.
Mhm.
Manohar Parrikar.
Yes.
So he happened to meet me once, and of course,
Mhm.
subsequently interview and all of that happened. He was very thrilled to know that I am a Konkani by origin,
Ah,
and we happened to speak in Konkani, and he was thrilled, and he was like, people from this particular background whose mother tongue is Konkani are very rarely found in a place like Delhi. So he
yeah.
was very happy to, and he even said
Mhm.
that we should go places because we are both Konkanis. So
Yeah.
that was an interesting conversation that I had with him, and an interesting kind of a meeting that I had with.
Uh-huh.
Manohar Parrikar, of course, he's no longer here, but amazing person,
Yeah.
amazing man.
Yes.
Gave all the security personnel around him a tough task, because he didn't believe in security. He believed in going if he would travel to the airport, he would travel in the general queue, and
Yeah.
he would carry his own briefcase, he would take his own things and go in and out. And then the security staff would be running helter skelter to try and ensure that nothing happens to him, because he was a defense minister at that point in
Yes.
time, very, very critical position.
Yeah.
So that was a little gist about the great man Manohar Parrikar.
Yeah. Amazing. And who is that one person that you sat across the table and you were nervous talking to?
I was nervous, when I was sitting across the table. I mean, pleasantly nervous as well, because of the kind of intellect that the person carried along with him.
Hmm.
Uh, Mr. Arun Jaitley. So the last interview that Mr. Arun Jaitley did was with me before he passed on.
Hmm.
So I very vividly remember that interaction as well. And then he was so pleased with the interaction that he kept on speaking to me. He congratulated me. He said that no one has really asked such tough questions of me, and I'm really, really thrilled that I did this interview. In fact, I wasn't really looking forward to it, because he was sick by that time, and he was
Yeah.
not really fully fit. So he wasn't really looking forward to it. But after the interview, he congratulated me, and he said that he was glad that he did that interview. But I was nervous because of the kind of knowledge and the kind of intellect that the person brought to the table. I
Hmm.
knew that I had to be on my toes and I had to be at my best.
Oh, nice, nice put. I mean, this is something that we want to do, right? This is exactly the reason we have this series, to see what people do. What is it that they enjoy about their profession? What are the not so nice things that we assume that they do? Like we see that people in the media, we feel that okay, they get to meet all the celebrities, all the big people, and it's a jolly life for them, and they have access to anything and everything. That's one of the thoughts that we have. Maybe it's true, but maybe it is not all that great. So we will debunk a lot of those things as we go, but also learn a lot more. How did you choose to get into this profession? What made you go towards journalism?
It's funny that you asked this. Sometimes just the other day I was thinking about the circumstances under which this actually happened.
Hmm.
So I remember once I finished my 10th standard, I studied in an ICSE school. So my dad asked one of my cousins, who was slightly elder to me at that point in time, because he was working in and around MG Road and St. Joseph's College, if those who are familiar with the geography of Bangalore. So my dad had asked him to bring the form to fill up for PUC,
Hmm.
and he brought the green color form, which was the science form.
Okay.
So my dad looked at it and he said, "No way that this guy can do science. Who asked you to bring the science form?" But because my marks were also pretty decent back then, you didn't need 99% and
Right.
96%. I had more than first class that was required. So I could have gotten to Joseph's science stream at that point in time, but I was not interested at all in
Mhm.
getting into the science stream. So the next day I had to go and I brought the yellow form, which was the arts form. So then I filled that in. And I was very clear at a very young age that, science and that kind of thing was something that I didn't really want to do.
Mhm.
And what was the next best thing? So, history or any of the arts subjects, if I would have taken, maybe, a lecturer somewhere or a professor somewhere or something like that, there was no real scope back then. The
Mhm.
economy hadn't opened up this much.
Right.
And journalism was in its nascent stage. Once I
Mhm.
finished my PUC, I realized that, okay, fine, journalism is something that I could possibly take up a career in because it was still in its nascent stage. TV was not what it is today.
Right.
Uh, so I decided to take up journalism. I got into a good university as well, or good college back then. Now it's a university, of course. I got into Christ College,
Mhm.
which had a good journalism course there. So
Okay.
that's when I decided to do journalism. I did journalism, and then the rest is history. I got into the same field that I graduated in and did my post graduation also in mass communication, and then went on to do what I did after that.
Nice. Because see, as I think we both are from the same generation, a couple of years apart. But for us, the stream of journalism, I mean, for us, when we say art, it was Bachelor of Arts. And when we look at arts, the only thing that it goes back to is creative arts. That's what we all connect to. But when you was mentioning that you had to go get the LO form for arts and then you did journalism, that's a big thing, right? Journalism is art. It's not like a occasional subject where you go and study some technical stuff and you get into journalism. It is an art. So that it's a good thing. And we'll maybe go back to that point a little later. In journalism, right? So when we talk about journalism as a whole, what we usually know is journalism is about newspapers, writing articles, or being a reporter, right? What other streams are there in journalism? As in, when you do journalism as a degree, what are the different fields that you can get into? What are the different kind of jobs that somebody who is a journalist would end up doing?
So substreams, when you look at journalism, the first thing that comes to your mind is TV and print, because that is something that you see on a daily basis.
Right.
Newspaper and the television screen is something that you see on a daily basis. But then there is so much more to it. Direct off streams are theater,
Uh-huh.
uh, drama, that is filmmaking also is a big part of mass communication as a whole, not journalism in particular, but is mass communication as a
Okay.
whole. Then there is communication itself. Any of your companies, any of your MNCs or any other companies that are there in the world have a separate communications wing,
Correct.
whatever, however big or small the company is.
Yes.
So you need that as well. You need an entire communications wing that depends on good communication going out to all stakeholders.
Right.
And then there is, of course, synopsis that need to be written for various products, product launches, etc.,
Right.
etc. Then there is public relations, the
Mhm.
entire PR team as well. Most companies have PR teams. Forget about companies. Individuals also today
Yes.
have their own,
Yes. PR
PR
management.
teams in
Yeah.
place. So that is one more. And of course, another very, very important and critical area is advertising. And many
Mhm.
companies have huge advertising budgets, and they also look at good advertisers and people to take forward the brand image of any brand. So
Mhm.
these are immediate things that I can think of related to journalism and mass communication as a whole.
Okay.
And these careers are something that are always going to be there and going to be in the market.
Yes. Good point again, because what is happening here is that we've had print media for a long time. That's the most consumed type of the media. And then TV happened and that kind of overtook newspapers. People are not using, I mean, we don't have the subscription for newspapers because I remember as a child growing up, we used to have both Kannada and English newspapers coming home every single day. And then we used to have the weeklies and the fortnightly magazines coming over. That's kind of going away now. I don't see the newspapers in front of the doormats in most of the houses these days. That's kind of getting out of uh, the size and scope that it used to be. TV is taken up, and then it's now online and internet has become another media. What do you think this will evolve into next?
The immediate evolution is something that we are witnessing right now. The newspaper industry was doing very badly before the COVID-19 pandemic hit. and many newspaper organizations were cutting staff. A couple of them shut down as well. Big names, big newspapers, shut down as well.
Uh-huh.
But the COVID pandemic, of course, it caused a lot of problems, a lot of issues for a lot of people around. But then there were, like everything, there's a good side and a bad side as well.
Mhm.
So for the newspaper industry, it was like a blessing in disguise, because they then reinvented the wheel
Mhm.
and figured out how to go digital.
Mhm.
So most of the newspapers now have a very, very strong digital presence.
Yeah.
And that digital presence is something that they have built on, and they're thriving now yet again. And they're
Yes.
doing well. Most of
Yeah.
the business, most of the newspapers are doing well.
Mhm.
Many people have subscribed to, back then there was this debate, or there was this question whether Indians who are used to getting everything free, will they be ready to pay for a subscription?
Exactly. Yeah.
Now many people have started subscribing because they have realized that there is a lot of value add to it.
Mhm.
So Indians are not in the market just for free things. They are looking
Mhm.
for value add.
Yes.
And as long as that value add is provided,
Mhm.
people are willing to pay. And because of the sheer size of our market, the sheer numbers that are there in our country,
Mhm.
that even if you keep the subscription rates or levels low,
Mhm.
because of the mass that is involved, the
True.
newspapers and everybody else can make money out of it as well. So
Yeah.
they've reinvented the wheel. And like any business or anything that you have out there, you have to keep reinventing the wheel as the time changes, and you have to be relevant with the times. Only then it will work. So that's, as of now, they're
Mhm.
relevant with the times. What will happen next, I don't know. We don't really know. How well they're going to be equipped remains to be seen.
Yeah. Because we keep hearing these things, right? They're system digital anchors these days. It's like there's no person, but there is a created digital character who becomes an anchor. The anchor is reading the news, and all of those things are happening. How successful would that be? I mean, being in the field, seeing these things closely, how much do you think this is actually going to be a reality going forward? Or is it just a fad that happens and people just trying it out and then it'll fade away and you need to still have humans sitting and reading the news straight into the camera?
There are two aspects to it. One is reading the news, and one is presenting the news.
Uh-huh.
See, news reading, the AI can do very easily because there's no emotion attached to it. You just read out what is there. It's like a press release being read out.
Right.
But news, thanks to the nature of it, is dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
So it has to evolve, and you need to bring in emotions as well to the news. For instance, just look at what's happening now, between India and Pakistan.
Mm-hmm.
If you remove the emotion out of it, there is nothing left in it.
Yeah.
So you have to have the emotion. And that is where, especially TV journalism is safe in that sense,
Mm-hmm.
because you need to emote.
Yeah.
And the AI cannot emote beyond a point. That it is not natural. It can't be natural. So
Yes.
that is the only issue with that. And then time reaction, or reacting to someone else's emotions as well, is something that is going to be very difficult.
Yes.
Now, channels like Aaj Tak and India Today have actually experimented with this, by having bots as anchors.
Right.
And, it looks so unnatural. It looks so unnatural that you need to be a little, off in the head to sit and watch that or enjoy that.
Exactly. So monotonous.
Yeah, it's really ridiculous. So they tried that experiment. They tried really hard. I don't think it's working really, beyond the point. Of course, they still use it as a filler here and there, but
Mm-hmm.
it's something that was introduced a few years ago. It's not, something that has happened in the last 6 months or so.
Mm-hmm.
But they haven't been able to scale it up, because the emotion is something that is missing, and that is why they have not gone ahead the way they would have liked to.
Yeah. I mean, as you mentioned, this becomes very zero emotional stuff when it becomes machine digital. But we also have humans on the other side who are like pushing the boundaries of emotion and going to other level. When we have without taking names, we have anchors who are screaming out of their minds, and it's overload of emotion that's happening in some channels. But anyways, not to call out people.
Side note.
Yes, on a side note, who wants to know? Nobody wants to know. So, uh, there was another question that I wanted to ask because you mentioned theater is one of the forms. Uh, Filmmaking is another form of mass communication and telling stories and all of that, right? There are a lot of children these days who are really good at some of the art forms, like you mentioned, talking itself, right? Your voice modulation, how to present a story, how to emote and say things when it really appeals to people. That is one thing that people are really good at. They have really good voice. Some people are really good at photography, videography, and all of that. And some people are good at writing content. Some of them are really good at traveling and capturing things that usually people don't see. These are things that people are doing as a hobby, as a side hustle, or whatever that they like to do. How much of this is taken as a mainstream career in the field of media journalism and news? Is that uh, a field that people who are really good at it and they're enjoying doing this, can they pursue it as a mainstream learning and get into media and journalism? Is that something that is an option?
Absolutely. It's not just an option for media and journalism. It's also an option for social media and platforms like YouTube, where
Mhm.
people with great captures, with a great eye for detail, with a great eye to present video stories are flourishing and are doing well. And right now, at least the flavor of the season or the mood is for quirky content that
Yes.
catches the eyes.
Yeah.
Now, whether that is going to be the case 5 years from now, maybe not, or maybe it is. But then once you get into that mode, you keep inventing, you keep reinventing, you keep trying new things, and you do that, and then it will all fall into place.
Yeah.
So as far as this as a path in journalism or in mass communication per se, you will definitely get a job, you'll definitely do well, but then it's going to be limited scope. You're going to be
Yeah.
only doing, that much work. But if you're
True.
really talented and you can break the boundaries and go beyond
Mhm.
the four walls, so to speak, you can really thrive. And the options are limitless, really, with the kind of social media presence that we have right now. It's all again related to the media itself, journalism and mass communication as a whole.
Yeah.
So YouTube or any of these other platforms can definitely be a step up.
So if there are children who are doing YouTube shorts and doing Instagram reels that we see on the streets, and there are parents who are worried that my child is just doing this 5 hours a day, they can rest assured because they can make it big in this field because they are doing what it takes to become a very good anchor or a host or a reporter, right? And they don't need to
Absolutely.
fret about it, saying, okay, he's not learning, she's not learning anything. They've kind of mastered
That's
one of the
also
skills.
that's also a new age skill that needs to be picked up. If you're good at it, why not? Because there are many examples, many stories in front of you, success stories.
Yes.
This Mr. Beast being a prime example of what he's doing.
Yeah. A fitness guy, right?
Yeah. No, no, Mr. Beast was into gaming and
Okay.
all of that. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
he started by putting up videos of his
Yes,
gaming and his
yes, yes.
games that he used to play as a youngster,
Yeah.
and now he is probably has the highest number of followers in the
Yeah.
world, overtaken even uh, the stuff like T series and the music channels from India. So doing well, wonderfully well. So
So there is another
don't stop that creativity.
So that is another thing, right? When gamers do that, they are also kind of into the mass communication, but they are not coming with their face on, with their voice on. They're just streaming the content, streaming the kind of work that they're doing for people to consume, and they're still making it a big profession and doing really well in terms of finances there.
Absolutely, but they are also good at something. That's why they are able to do that. Now, the gaming, they are
Yes,
good at that game. They are giving you hacks. They're giving you tricks. They are also, keeping you engaged. At the end of the day, what is going to give you money or what is going to gather eyeballs is keep them engaged. And as long as you can keep them engaged, that's the battle won.
yeah, true. And I have a lot of questions coming in. I think it's all coming in together. Maybe I may forget something. I'll keep coming back to it. But there are few things, right? When you said in arts, there are a lot of things that you could have done, but it was not really exciting. And you thought you'll do journalism and get into that as a mainstream. Arunaji, I'll come back to you. I just want to go through this first, and then I'll take a question. So those days, right, when we saw journalism specifically into the news and media, we have grown up watching Doordarshan news, prime time news, which used to be once in the morning, once in the night, and it was like people sitting serious, wearing the coats and ties, and delivering news like they just read people things out. It had its own risk, it had its own vibe to it. We enjoyed doing that. But as time changed, that is not what people look for these days. It's become really, being loud and have to scream, and you need to keep having a lot of drama and emotions that is expressed. but there are still people who still go back to that. But while you got into it, and while you were studying journalism, what was the style of presentation that you learned at that day, and how has it changed now, and what will it become later, as in maybe 10 years from now? Because we have seen this drastic change where people, we remember the names, the faces of those people, how the background used to be, how pleasant the news delivery is. We used to wait for it. Now the news is playing 24/7, unlimited streaming, and people are there throughout the day. It's changed, the style is changed. How you learn, what is happening currently, has been two different things.
It's
How did it
it's it's funny, I have to you ask this question because uh, I've done 5 years of journalism, mass communication, the graduation and post graduation.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, when I studied, it was all theory and nothing else. So I didn't really pick up anything that I used on the job in the 5 years of my education. So it
Mhm.
was all about, journalism ethics. It was all about, laws, libel, etc., etc., copyright,
Yeah.
those kind of things that I never really came across in 20 years of my working experience. So
Okay.
more than 20 years of my working experience. So it's strange. But the way journalism and mass communication is being taught now is different because many of these universities, colleges, etc., actually have inbuilt studios within the campuses itself. They send their students to do college magazine reporting, and they have their own YouTube channels, they have their podcasts, they have their
Mhm.
radio stations, etc., etc. So it's far more integrated today. When I studied journalism, we didn't have anything. We had, I think, me and another classmate of mine were the first ones to really start a college newsletter, so to speak, back then.
Yeah.
And that was when it started, and that's when we struggled to gather news articles because we I don't remember it was a weekly or a monthly, but we brought out a few editions. So it
Uh,
was difficult for us to even get those stories back then. I also remember on the first day of college, we didn't know what journalism was. They sent us out on reporting without even telling us what reporting was or what we had to do. It felt like, they were just sending us away and they didn't want to have anything to do with us. So we all went helter skelter all over the place, and tried to get or gather whatever stories that we possibly could. And I really can't even remember the progress of what happened then and what really happened. So as far as style in journalism was concerned, I think it came to me. My style came to me naturally
mhm.
because I just decided, to be polite. I decided to try and get as much information out of the person in front of me.
Mhm.
And I realized that, if I am sitting here and there's a guest or an important person sitting in front of me, people would rather listen to him. That's because he's the person in the hot seat and he knows what he has to say and he has all the expertise. They don't really want to listen to me because I'm a generalist. I'm not really an expert in the subject. Say,
Yes.
for
Yes.
instance, there's a fire somewhere. I can only say that there's a fire and how many people have died. Now, only that person who's sitting there, if he's from the police department or fire department, who can tell us about the hazards of the fire, what you need to do in a situation like that, what are the SOPs to be followed. I'm not the one who can speak about that. So that's a style that I generally and naturally developed. I
Mhm.
decided to listen to the person in front of me
Okay.
and then ask follow-up questions based on what the person in front of me is saying. So that is a style that I specifically developed. And I also realized very early on that, the simpler I keep things, the easier it is for me and the better it is for me,
Yes.
because that way I will not make mistakes. So keep it simple and then let the other person say what he has to say. So that is a style that many people liked as well because they realize that this fellow's involvement is not too much.
Yes.
And generally, as a journalist, that's a good quality to have as well. Now, this is something that I didn't pick up in journalism school, but I
Uh-huh.
picked up by myself.
On the job learning, looking at
Yeah.
doing that. Yeah, the great way. This next part of it, right? What will it become later? So if you have to look at it in 10 years from now, how things may change. What do you think would change that you could predict? Saying, okay, this is how it's gonna be. These are the kind of things that a child who is listening to this today and decides to get in the field of mass communication or journalism. What are the skills that they will need to develop to be ready for the next in the next 10 years?
I I think one important skill that many people do not have, even experienced hands in the industry I've seen do not have, is listening skills.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be a good listener. Only if you listen well can you really put forward the kind of points and the questions that really need to be put forward.
Right.
And when you listen, you understand. And understanding is very key, especially at a time when people's attention span is just diminishing with every passing day.
Exactly. Yeah.
With YouTube as well, once upon a time, people would actually listen to information and try and get more information from there, even if it was listening at 2x speed. Now people don't want to listen at 2x speed also. They just want, AI to give them all the information at
Yeah.
hand. Just to give you an example of the civil services, I've been involved with civil services training and helping people get into the Indian civil services, whether it's the IAS, IPS, IFS, etc. The way people would consume that information was far different, say 10 years ago, because they actually wanted to understand the issue.
Right.
Now, even if you try to make the person in front of you understand, some of these students and youngsters say, "Tell us how we can get this information from AI."
Okay.
But the problem is AI can't really give you, like I said, emotion at the end of the day. They can't really
Yeah.
give you it can give you perspectives, but it
Hmm.
can't bind them together and get the backstory, which is emotion, into it. So
Yes.
that is the challenge. So as far as 10 years down the line is concerned,
Hmm.
TV journalism, I strongly believe, is still going to be there in some form or the other, because without TV journalism, people
Hmm.
want information. And information can only be verified through TV news, because TV channels also now have realized and have understood the need to verify information and then put it out. If
Hmm.
you looked at watched NDTV's coverage over the last 2 or 3 days,
Hmm.
based on what is happening between India and Pakistan, they kept talking about deferred visuals. They kept talking about,
Right.
we want to confirm this information first and then give it to you. So automatically, news
Uh-huh.
channels are becoming more and more responsible, because they understand and realize that the audience or the people want authentic news.
Correct.
So as long as you're authentic, you're going to be relevant, because people are going to come back to you for that information that is
Yes.
required.
Yeah.
So listening skills are very important, and also presentation skills are very important. You need to have thinking skills as well, because you
Hmm.
need to understand the psyche behind the information that is coming through and how to present it and why you want to present it in this particular way.
Yeah.
That is TV. As
Hmm.
far as newspapers are concerned as well, it's going to be the same. They're just going to keep giving you information in some form or the other. People have already started, giving out snippets and
Yes. Yes.
attaching larger links to it, so
Yes.
that if you're interested, you will click on the larger link
Yes.
and then go and read it.
Uh-huh.
So these are the ways that they are evolving and adapting. Advertising is still going to be very relevant, because people are still going to consume, people are still going to buy. How do you ensure that you hit the nail on the head with regards to advertising? The right kind of messaging is
Correct.
what is going to be important 5 to 7 years down the line. There's going to be less of experimentation with messaging, but
Uh-huh.
more of direct messaging.
Which means they'll need to know their target audience exactly where, because they have very limited chance, very limited what do you call the attention span of people. If you do not capture their attention in the first 3 or 4 words that they read, you lost them.
It's
First
going to be
five
more
seconds of
visual
the
also. It's
video.
going to be
Yeah.
more visual in the sense that not really videos, but even anything that you can see is what you're going to
Correct.
experience first. So that is also going to be very important.
So visual medium arts is gonna take over than the content. Well, content is absolutely the king, but how you get people into consuming the content is driven through applied arts. Nicely put. Thanks
Absolutely.
a lot. At this point, let's take the question from Arunaji. Arunaji, you had something to ask?
Yes, yes. Like one of that, you asked the typical skills needed is what I wanted to ask actually.
Okay.
So, and yeah, like another question which I had was, what are the challenges of this profession, specifically yours? And like, what are the lessons learned, if you can share?
Uh, One lesson that I learned, and that I continue to apply even in my day-to-day life today, is know what your red lines are and don't cross any of those red lines. That is most important. And as long as you don't cross those red lines, you also give your employer, see, at the end of the day, even this is a job, and you have to do your job to the best of your ability, and you have to do your job keeping in mind that you have mouths to feed as well. So you can't be a radical, you can't be, you can't try to swim against the current. But as long as you're true to yourself, as long as you know that you do not cross any red lines, then your employer, your bosses, and everybody else as well starts to have confidence in you, and they tend to give you that leeway to do things your way. Because at the end of the day, even they have the confidence and the faith that you are not going to cross these boundaries or these red lines. So stay within the boundaries, stay within the red lines, and you will flourish. That's a lesson that I learned early, and that's a lesson well learned.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's very important. And like if you can recollect any of the say like challenges as I asked about, like see people who want to start their career, like you started long time back, that I can understand, but like if at all somebody has to start their career, like what you are doing currently, so what are the typical things that they need to understand whether this is right for them or not? So if you could.
It's difficult to understand whether this is right or wrong for you unless you dabble with it, unless you actually experiment, you try it. For instance,
Hmm.
um, I'm going to give you a very vague example.
Okay,
Unless you taste strawberry, butterscotch, vanilla, chocolate, and pineapple ice cream, you won't know which one you like.
understood. Yeah.
So the best way to deal with this is you indulge in everything. You
Mm-hmm.
also need to understand your strengths. You need to understand what you're good at, and you also need to understand what you want to get to eventually. But try everything. Unless you have tried everything, you don't know whether what you're looking to reach eventually is something that you're going to like or not.
True.
And the good thing with journalism, the good thing with the media is because of the nature of how the job is,
Mm-hmm.
even if you don't really get what you want initially, as long as you stay committed, as long as you say that, you know what, I'm going to be prepared and I'm going to wait for the first chance that I get and I will take that chance up, because that chance will definitely come, because the nature of the job itself. There are no leaves. People work 12 to 14 hours in a day. Someone is bound to fall sick. Someone's child is bound to fall sick. Someone's husband is going to be in the hospital. Something or the other is going to happen. Wait for that opportunity and take that opportunity with both your hands, and you will get to what, because what happens here is immediately results can be seen in that very instant. Whether you write an article, whether you come and present yourself in front of the TV, if you've done a good job, entire world can see it. So that can be applied from the next day itself. So there's no gestation period, so to speak. So that's one good thing. So you have to be at it. You have to ensure that you grab the opportunity as soon as you get it, and just be ready to do whatever it takes in the beginning. And once you get your opportunity, you shine, and then that's it. It's yours for the rest of your life.
Hmm. Thank you so much. I think that's that was very insightful. Yeah, like and like actually when you think of a journalist, like there are some skills which are kind of like inborn. For example, like I have been hearing you, and then you have a very strong voice and very good voice. Like I mean, if uh, like it's kind of like, what do I say, a catchy voice, if I can say. And so, if somebody does not have something like that, is it possible for a person to kind of acquire that skill in terms of modulating their voice and all?
I'm sure they can, because this is something that I have also acquired after 25 years. So if someone does it from an early age and they decide that they want to do it, experience at the end of the day is the best teacher. So I thankfully have the experience behind me, so that's why I am where I am today. But youngsters too, they decide that this is what they want to do. And this, I'm not even saying they need to go for voice modulation classes or anything like that. It will automatically come to you the moment you start doing it on a regular basis. One simple exercise, I don't know, for youngsters to do is, if there is no substitute to reading the newspaper. That's something that I've realized and I've understood, because the more you read and the more regularly you read, it keeps going back into your head and goes back into your subconscious, and it gives you an ability to recall at any particular time. So uh, one thing that I have known to do also is the fact that my cameramen love to work with me, my producers love to work with me, because there are no retakes. And even if there is a retake from the technical side because of a problem that they have in front of them, I immediately am ready with my next piece to the camera without worrying, because of the years and years of reading newspaper, that knowledge has been ingrained in the mind. The the words that I say now may not be the same in the retake, but the point is driven home, and what the information that needs to go out goes out. So first is read the newspapers, and you can read the newspaper aloud. When you read the newspaper aloud, what happens is automatically your tone improves, your intonation comes in, and everything else then just gets rounded up and falls into place. So that's a good practice. And maybe even reading out in front of the mirror also really helps in some instances, because you can also see yourself emoting while you're reading. One thing that people forget or don't realize is the importance of body language along with all of this. Body language is also extremely important. Small little facial gestures here and there also go a long way in driving a point. So these are some simple exercises that can be followed.
Thank you so much. That was really helpful. And one last question. Like you mentioned that you were nervous when you met Arun Jaitley. So, how do you generally overcome your nervousness? Like that may not happen very often, but I'm just asking. Maybe when you started off that time, maybe you were more nervous than you are now. So, like, how do you overcome that?
Sorry for the language, but I was shit scared the first time I was on TV. I didn't know what was happening. There was no intonation. There were no pauses. There was nothing in what I said in front of the camera. Of course, see, a lot of people use teleprompters. I also use teleprompters whenever there is a need. If you need to read out something verbatim, or if you need to read out anything in a particular way, a statement of the Prime Minister, statement by the President, or any particular information that needs to be read out, you can use the teleprompter. I'm known not to use a teleprompter as well, because I do things very naturally. But the teleprompter was on because that was the first time that I was going on television ever. And it was a small little segment that I was doing. And then I literally didn't know what I said. There was no continuity, there was no full stop, there was nothing to it.
Okay.
And I remember running out of the studio, and then I went into the control room, and I just hugged a person that I didn't even care too much about. You know, I just hugged him, and I was like, I didn't know what was happening. So that was how it was, the first ever time. And with Jaitley ji, the thing was, like I said, years and years of reading, I had the faith and the confidence in me. I know that, once the conversation starts and it starts going into gear one, gear two, gear three, then it's going to reach the top gear and it's just going to go on from there. So the faith and knowledge is everything. As long as you know that you are prepared, as long as you know that, there is nothing that can come in your way because you have done your homework and because you are prepared for that particular situation, nothing can come in your way. So some things that people do, I've also told people to do. You squeeze your little finger like this to try and control your nerves. That helps. At least it has helped many people that I've informed. So I do this a lot because sometimes in the studio, it gets really cold because of the kind of lighting and all of that we use. You need to use the AC in full blast. Otherwise, the equipment inside gets overheated and it malfunctions. So it gets really cold, and then your nose tends to get cold because the AC is on your face and on your nose, and then you tend to want to sneeze. So I do this and I don't sneeze, because this is another trick. They say you press here hard here and you don't sneeze, but then you can't really press hard here on national TV. It just looks funny and stupid. So under the table, I squeeze my little finger. It also helps me calm down and it stops me from sneezing. So this is one trick that I have used over the years.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much, Frank, for all the inputs. That was really
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
We need to have more, second level of this, so that we can get more out of your experience. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
As I was mentioning, this is one part of what Frank does, right? So there is another part of he being a coach for civil services. I think we should do another segment about it. I'll talk to you about it. On that point, I just remembered what you mentioned a little while earlier. So when you're coaching children these days for the civil services, for the IAS, IPS, and all of that, they ask you not to give the information, but tell me how to get it from here. So the way I know it is these people know anything and everything. It starts from the culture, the language, the geography, the politics, the history of the land. They need to know everything, because if they are thrown at a situation, they need to basically bring back everything to say, if I need to take an action on this particular thing, I need to know what has happened before, how it people culturally take it, what are happened in the past when somebody did something. They need to know every single thing in the back of their head so that they could use that information as knowledge and wisdom that they could apply it for the next action. If everything is right now, I mean, today is the age of information. Everything is there at your fingertips. You just go to any AI and you just type in what is this, it will give you that information. It is available at that moment of time at that particular situation. Do you think this, in a way, is kind of hurting some of the professions? Like, for example, if somebody is an IAS officer, he has not learned the history of things because he's like, for this situation, how can I do it? He gets a impromptu answer at that particular point of time, but he doesn't know the history of it. If he's faced with the same challenge and if he doesn't have access to internet at that point of time, they will be doomed. They'll not know how to handle it. So, is this hurting some of those professions in a way? Too much of easy access to information on demand, or is it a tool that they could use wisely and do better? Because there, those days, they had hundreds and thousands of books that had to go through. Now it's all available easily. So, how do you think this will play? Is it a boon or a bane?
See, it is definitely, I would say it's a boon,
Mhm.
but deciphering that it's like code. That's how I'll put it.
Mhm.
Information is like code. Now, how you decipher that information and what kind of information you decide to take, that is what is important.
Mhm.
It's not, information is available to everyone and everyone has the access to the information.
Right.
How you process that information, how you decipher the code, and how you implement it is what is the challenge is.
Correct.
Most people fail to understand this. I'll give you a simple example. You know, people don't know how to search on Google today. They don't know how to put the right phrase or the right words that Google needs to throw out the answer.
Yep.
Now, I find that absurd
Mhm.
because that's the simplest thing to do. But people fail to do that. People
Yep.
can't get the right information out. So, and as far as AI is concerned, also, AI is your friend, your companion. So it's looking at your patterns, it is looking at the way your mind works, it is looking at the way your ideas or how you're ideating through AI, and will give you a very myopic view.
Right.
It's not going to give everybody else's view in place there. So that is a big challenge as well.
Mhm.
So the information is good. And you cannot say that, I would say that there is too much information.
Yes.
How you process that information is very, very important. It can truly be a boon because if you can understand every nitty gritty of any particular issue, say, for instance, you're doing a midday meal scheme.
Mhm.
It is one of the longest running schemes in India and a very, very successful scheme. The UN and everybody else have congratulated us for the midday meal scheme. But through the midday meal scheme, if you're not really giving the right kind of nutrition or the right kind of food to a particular type of people, what's the use?
Correct.
But if you can use that information and understand, okay, this is the nutrient that this person is lacking, this is the kind of food that this person needs, and this is what we need to give them more of.
Mhm.
If that kind of understanding is brought into the picture, then it definitely is a boon.
Yeah. And also rightly so. You said people don't know how to search on Google. With all of this information available at your fingertips, if you don't know the right questions to ask, it's of no use. So
Absolutely.
yeah, great. We've had some serious discussions, serious conversations about how you took up this field at the time when you thought of getting into this profession. We heard from you saying what are the good things that you enjoy, what are not so fancy stuff. You also spoke about some of the things that you've done, what are the different career options that are there, what kind of skills that are required for this, and what it may look like in the future and what's going to stay. Maybe a little bit of a fun thing to ask here, right? When we turn on the TVs, we have breaking news coming in. Does it mean that you guys know stuff and you don't tell unless it is the right time to do? You guys know the secrets that we don't know before us?
Breaking news is interesting. We have reporters, we have, people all across the country. I'm not talking about Sansad TV now because Sansad TV doesn't believe in breaking news. We do things very, very differently. But
Mhm.
generally, I've been part of the whole breaking news culture and the breaking news era as well. So you get one line you have these earpieces. So this is the
Right.
control room that communicates to you through the earpiece that you have.
Mm-hmm.
So the control room gets one line, or your reporter breaks the story. We have our own softwares, we have our own apps and all that we use.
Mm-hmm.
So it blinks on your screen. All right, on those who are in charge of this, look at it and they see it blinking there,
Mm-hmm.
and it says breaking news, fire. I'm just giving you an example.
Yeah.
Say, for instance, fire in Carlton Towers. Let's look at Carlton Towers. All right.
Yeah.
Unfortunate incident that took place in Bangalore, but nonetheless, let's see. So, fire in Carlton Towers. So, you have that information.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they realize that it's a race, and it's a race for who's going to be first, so that you get more and more eyeballs.
Yeah.
So, you have to break this news. Now, the reporter has only told you fire in Carlton Towers.
Mm-hmm.
But the reporter is also trying to get more information. But the control room has to pass on this information because live news is going on and there's some boring piece that is already taking place, and they realize that nobody's watching that.
Yeah.
So now breaking news has come in. So they say the information goes to the ear that there is breaking news. So this person is ready. Okay, fine, breaking news. Fire in Carlton Towers is the next line that he is told. In the meantime, someone on the desk is preparing the breaking news, the thing that you see, and the graphics and all that, saying breaking news, fire, Carlton Tower, etc., etc. So the anchor says, okay, then the control room says, okay, we're going to go to the breaking news now. So the anchor says, okay, we've got some breaking news coming in. So that is 5 seconds spent there. Then he says, there is a fire at Carlton Towers. That's the information. That's all the information that this person has. Okay. And after this, they have to sit and speak till what happens. The control room is going to try to connect the reporter now. Because the reporter is on the job there, on the spot, but the reporter is also trying to get more information. So his phone is busy or he's talking to someone, so he can't really answer your phone immediately. So after this breaking news plates and breaking news has gone on for 2 minutes, and the anchor then just, talks about breaking news. We have limited information right now, but we are trying to get connected to our reporter. We'll try and give you as much information as we possibly can. But all I can say right now is that we've got breaking news coming in, and the big breaking news right now is that there's a fire at Carlton Towers. We don't really know where it is happening or where the fire started, but all we can tell you is that smoke is billowing out of the building. See, I spoke to you for 2 minutes. So this is how it goes.
I was waiting to hear more about it. As if I'm listening to the real news now.
Yeah. And then finally the reporter is connected, and the anchor is also happy that, okay, fine, the reporter is connected. Now let me chew his brains. So they speak to him for about 2-3 minutes, and he also gives you the same kind of information. He would have picked up a little more information and said, fire is on the 4th floor, 5th floor. There are people stuck in the 6th floor. We are trying to get them down, etc., etc. He's spoken for another 2-3 minutes. And then in the meantime, they try and get someone from the fire department or, from the wherever else, and then they build on the story like that. So it's not like the anchor knows all the information. In fact, the anchor is just given lines every now and then.
Okay. So there is a lot of things happening. There are a lot of people pulling strings. So you mentioned one of the things, right? The production. So this is what we keep commonly hearing, the production team. For us, we don't know what it means. They say, production team, please do this. Production team, please bring them. Are these the people pulling strings and getting information from different places, or what do they do?
Okay, so the news structure is divided in this way. There is something known, there are basically two streams, right? There's one input desk and one output desk. So input is in charge of getting the information in.
Okay.
And this information is put out by output.
Okay.
Okay.
That's who's there front facing.
Yeah. And the people who are sitting on the desk, who are sitting and typing the story, making the graphics and all of that.
Right.
They have templates in place. So the output desk puts all of this in place. They fill in the templates for breaking news.
Okay.
Right. I'm just talking to you about a breaking news scenario. So reporters are part of input. So input gets the stories from the reporters. That is, there is an input desk as well in every news organization. Their job is to try and get as much information that they possibly can from anywhere.
Okay.
And then they verify that information and then they put it out. And then output then picks it up and then puts it for output that we can see. And in the interim is the control room, the production control room. It's called the PCR.
Okay.
The production control room is, like, you can say, the heart of the organization, because they are in charge, or they are the medium in between input, output, and the input and output. And they are communicating continuously to your anchor as well, saying that this is what we have, this is what we don't have. And if the anchor wants something as well, some kind of a particular visual that he wants to be played.
Uh-huh.
He's talking about, say, let's take an example of yesterday's incidents that
Correct.
took place last night. And now the anchor wants to move to, he's talking about Rajasthan, he's talking about, Bikaner and Jaisalmer, etc. He wants to move to Punjab now, to Taran and Pathankot and all of that. So he's talking about Pathankot, but the visuals that are running are from Rajasthan because the production control room has not heard what he's saying.
Okay.
Because it's a chaotic place.
Uh-huh.
It's a chaotic place, 100 people screaming, 20 different people screaming 20 different things. It's like I said, it's like the epicenter. That's where all the action happens. So they're not listening to what the anchor is saying. So the anchor then tells him that, boss, I'm talking about Punjab. No, please play the Punjab visuals.
You are live and you're speaking into the camera and you need the visuals to come out. You cannot tell them, hey, play that visual. It will be really funny to do that. Somebody is not listening to you. They're not changing the visuals. How do you communicate? I mean, you cannot raise your hand because you're on the camera. You cannot say something. You've been heard. How do you guys communicate that?
So one way of communicating is, you directly say that, production, can we please have, or, can you please
Visuals
have
from
these visuals? Because these visuals are something that we would like to have right now. Another way of doing it is, many a times what happens is the anchor is not on camera.
Okay.
The anchor is not on camera because the visuals are playing.
Correct.
So immediately, WhatsApp somebody or send a text message out to somebody or something like that, I need your attention. Another way of doing it is, you cut the volume of the anchor to the public.
Right.
But your control room can hear you. So you do this, they cut the audio, and then they ask you, okay, what do you want? If you're not going to be drinking water, or if you're going to be talking somewhere else, or if you say, I want to talk, I want to talk. Okay. So they cut your audio, your visuals are playing, they raise the volume of the audio, so you hear the blasts and everything else that is going on in the background. And then they say, okay, what do you want? Or, what can we do? And then you say, what the hell are you doing? Are you even listening to what I'm saying? I'm saying this, I want this right now. So then that happens.
Okay. So for me, this looks like another piece of it, right? There is a orchestrator. There is this person who is handling the entire orchestra. He is the one who is mastering and metering everything. Is there one person who oversees the whole thing? Who is
There is a person who oversees everything. He is the person who's in charge of the panel, that is the production control room. There is a panel producer present there, and that person finally decides what is the output on the screen eventually at the end. What is the output that you see? So the coordination between the anchor and the panel producer it has to be a very, very good fine tuning that is required, so that without even words being said, they understand each other. And then usually what happens is anchors have a good chemistry or a good connection with the panel producer, and the panel producer and anchors are usually a pair. Like, for instance, just to give you an example, like Arnab Goswami will only sit with one panel producer, and the person knows exactly what that person on air is thinking.
Yeah. That's actually what I wanted to understand, because if that is a profession, if there's one person doing it and they have these anchors who they work with every single day, they need to understand them. So more than any technical skill of handling those equipment, lighting, reducing the volume, increasing the volume, changing the snippet, they need to have that human skills, reading somebody, right, to understand what they're emotionally feeling around, not more than emotionally, what are they trying to say without saying anything. So you need to have that human bond.
Correct.
Connection with people. So that is also a very essential skills to manage this chaos and put everything in order, if I may put it that way.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And, I just remembered something else since you're talking about this, the craziest production control room to be in is during a live match, live cricket match. If you look around the cricket stadium, you'll see so many cameras. There are about 40, 50 cameras all around. And now you have
the drones,
monkey cam, spider cam, and whatnot.
All of those things.
It's crazy. It's crazy. So this panel producer, they get paid highly also, because that's a very, very technical job, and it's a very stressful job as well. They usually, stand and direct for about 30 minutes, and then the next person comes and takes over. So I've had the opportunity and the chance to see this firsthand. So he's got 40, 50 different screens in front of him. All right. They're all small little laptop size screens. He's standing and he's just looking, and he's continuously every second, he's like, cam 3 take, cam 7 take, Cam 41 take, Cam
Mhm.
13 take, stay, Cam 2 take. He's
Okay.
continuously doing this for 30 minutes. You don't realize it while watching a match, but
Yeah.
that guy has got the most stressful job, because this is something that he has to do continuously for 30 minutes before he's given a break. Sometimes even an hour also. It depends on the kind of staff and the crew that you have.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So that's also a part of uh, the whole field of journalism in media, or is it a technical job?
No. It's part of
Okay.
journalism and media. It's very much a part of journalism and media. Now even OTT comes under journalism and media, so there's a lot of opportunities and a lot of space, a lot
Mhm.
of things happening in that front as well. That's
Good.
one area where my knowledge and my experience is limited, because that's the only field that I have not been associated and not worked with. But otherwise, I worked with print, I worked with digital, I worked on YouTube, worked in television as well. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So
So
you
OTT
covered
also,
quite a
there
bit.
are lots of jobs and lots of opportunities.
Yeah. You're kind of there as an OTT, right? You have your own YouTube channel. You had the Bharata First TV going on. YouTube, in a way, if you consider it as an OTT, not a digital platform, you've done that also in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah. So great. I mean, thanks a lot. I mean, I have a lot of other things to ask. I don't know how much time we would need to do that, but maybe we could have one more segment to discuss about a few other things about civil services, and if somebody is willing to get into that field, because that's another interesting thing that people usually don't look at it, at least down south in India. A lot of people are not aware of it, and a lot of parents also don't push for it. It's only a few places, few geographies that people come from and who excel in that area, at least from the stereotypes that we have seen. But
Absolutely.
maybe there is another area to debunk, and we could have another segment about it.
Yeah, I think we can. And just for starters, since we just
Mhm.
spoke about this, it's not really the parents, it's a very, very university driven culture in northern India
Okay.
of UPSC. They have UPSC cells within the colleges itself.
Mhm.
I can't think of any college in Bangalore really having a UPSC cell. I don't remember. I don't remember coming across anything like. I didn't even know
Mhm.
what UPSC was when I was in college. So
Yeah.
yeah, so I think that's the biggest challenge. Yeah, we can talk about it
Yes,
some
we
other
can
time.
do that. Yep. So before we call it a Friday night, anybody has any other questions, anything to ask, add, say?
Yeah, like I had one last question, though this is
Huh?
not, I have a lot of questions. So I wanted to ask Frank about like who this profession is not for. Like, I mean, I
Who
wanted to
this
ask that.
profession is.
the,
The good thing about this profession is you can find your own space in who you are and what you want to do. But as far as TV journalism is concerned, if you want to be good at what you do, you need to be ready to put yourself out there. you need to get you need to be ready to get brickbats as well. Not only are you going to get a lot of praise for what you do, but you're going to get a lot of brickbats for what you don't do, or something that you do wrongly, or somebody who perceives you to be doing a wrong thing. So
oh,
if you have very thin skin, you shouldn't this is not a job for you, or this is not a profession for you. You need to be thick skinned. You need to understand that sometimes emotions are going to get the better of some other people who are saying something about you, but you just have to learn to put it aside, brush it aside, and move on.
okay, okay. Thank you so much, Frank. It was really an insightful session.
Thank you so much.
Perfect. Thanks a lot. And thanks a lot for not scaring a lot of us, because I heard some of the interviews from with some of the people, and you mentioned one of the names of the person. So when he speaks, you need to have a running dictionary right next to you. So in one of the few initial discussions that we had on the forum, also we had a feedback to say not to use a lot of jargons because people may not understand it. You made it really simple, really easy for people to understand and connect with, because it was not just that you're speaking from your expertise. You made it so easy and simple for all of us to understand and connect, though we don't come from the background of have the words and knowledge about it. So thanks a lot for that. It was wonderful speaking to you, and I think we should do it again. So,
Thank you. Thank you so very much for having me. It was a real pleasure. And yeah, a lot of people don't realize that there's a lot of technical stuff that goes on as well behind the camera. What we see at the end of the day is what we see in front of the camera, but there is a lot and lot of tech. And we have technical engineers employed for this very particular thing as well, to take care of all these technical aspects. So that is also a big, big part of what we do and a big part of what journalism is all about as well. So, yeah, I'm glad that we could understand some of it because it can get a little can go over the head sometimes.
It's a very good, nice medley of technology and art together, right? It's a beautiful,
Yeah,
more than any other profession. I think here it comes in really, it melts and mixes very well. There's technology, you're dealing with things, gadgets. At the same time, you're also using all the human skills and all the soft skills, all the art to go together. I think it's a beautiful culmination of things. Uh, a beautiful session. Thanks a lot.
thank you. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you. Wonderful.
Yeah, great. Thanks everyone for joining in, and we'll see you soon. Tomorrow or day after, we'll have a lot more people coming in, and hope to have more discovery sessions with you all. Have a good night. See you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.